हेलो बच्चों, तो वेलकम टू इन्फिनिटी लर्न बाय श्री चैतन्य। हाउ आर यू ऑल? कैसे हो सब? आई होप दैट यू ऑल आर डूइंग फाइन. So today we have the session which is the second session for the diversity of the living organisms, right? क्योंकि last class में हमने इसका कुछ portion cover किया था कि why classification is important, taxonomy, then the taxonomic hierarchy. We have talked about all those portions, and in the last class we have completed till the Monera. ठीक है? So in this class we'll be starting from the next portions, which is the Protista, right? So Acha, mycoplasma to we have done. So today we'll be starting from Protista, and we know it is a separate kingdom. So Protista is what? It is the यूनिसेलुलर यूकैरियोट्स. इन द मोनेरा हमने देखा है कि वो मोस्टली बैक्टीरियाज मतलब यूनिसेलुलर प्रोकैरियोट्स के बारे में बात करते हैं, बट नॉट ओनली यूनिसेलुलर, रैदर वो प्रोकैरियोट्स के बारे में बात करते हैं. बट यहाँ पर इन द प्रोटिस्टा वी आर फोकसिंग ऑन द यूनिसेलुलर यूकैरियोट्स, जैसे प्रोटोजोआज होते हैं, राइट? And they have a true nucleus because they are the eukaryotes and membrane bound organelles, and we know these are the characteristics of being a prokaryote. Then they are mostly aquatic in nature, पानी में रहते हैं, show great diversity in nutrition and locomotion कि ये लोग ये heterotrophic हो सकते हैं, autotrophic हो सकते हैं, ठीक है, और ये locomotion में भी diversity दिखाते हैं, मतलब they can do the movements. They form a link between the Monera and the higher organisms. Monera मतलब the prokaryotes and higher organisms. For example, अगर हम eukaryotes की बात करें तो ये उनके बीच में connecting link का काम करते हैं. They have the aerobic respiration, that means they can do the respiration in the presence of the oxygen. Was observed due to the presence of mitochondria, and we know that mitochondria, that is the organelle which is responsible for the energy production, right? Then however, in parasitic forms, anaerobic respiration may also take place. So you have to keep one thing in your mind, that Protista, they can do the aerobic as well as the anaerobic respiration, right? Reproduction takes place in both asexual and sexual modes, and binary fission is the most common method for the asexual reproduction here. Okay? Now we are talking about the type of Protista. We have the protozoas, we have the algae-like protista, we have the slime modes like the fungus type के जो होते हैं, then the pathogenic मतलब who will cause disease in our body, right? So protozoa like कौन है? Protozoa like those type of protista. If we talk about protozoa, they are animal like they have the heterotrophic nutrition, that means they cannot make their own food, they cannot do the photosynthesis, they mostly take the performed food, right? Like amoeba, paramecium, plasmodia, they are the protozoa, but they come under protista. ठीक है? Then algae like protista की हम बात करें तो algae we know they have the chlorophyll pigment so that they can do the photosynthesis. तो इसका example euglena, diatoms, dinoflagellates, ठीक है? Then we have the slime molds. You know what are molds? One thing you need to remember that fungi, ठीक है, fungi are two types, ठीक है, one is yeast and another is the mold. So yeast is unicellular, ठीक है, and this mold, that is multicellular. That is the difference between yeast and mold, that they both are the fungi, but yeast is unicellular but mold is multicellular. So this mold, they are fungi like they are saprophytic. That means what is saprophytic? So in the forest, not only in the forest, in the whole environment, there is some dead material. ठीक है, like a dead plant or a dead animal. So the fungus, they grow on them and they take the nutrients from the decaying matter. ठीक है, that is the mode of nutrition which is known as being saprophytic. Okay, so these fungi are like those. And if we talk about pathogenic matlab they will cause disease in our body. So like if we talk about the malarian parasite, which is plasmodium, that is a parasitic protista. Sleeping sickness, which is caused by a protista, which is a trypanosoma, okay, that is also a protozoa, and that is a type of the protista. Okay. Then importance of the protista, they are the primary producers in the aquatic food chain, phytoplankton, because primary producers मतलब from whom the food chain is starting there. ठीक है? So that is the primary producer in the aquatic food chain, phytoplankton. They can do the photosynthesis and they start the food chain. Some cause the serious disease in humans, right? हमने देखा the malaria, then sleeping sickness, diseases are caused by them. Slime modes help in the decomposition if they feed on the decaying matter. So the decaying matter that will get dissolved within some time because of their decomposition, right? Used in scientific research, जैसे amoeba, paramecium, they are used for our cell studies, for our research purpose. Okay. Diatoms form the diatomaceous earth, which is used in polish and filtration. It is very much used in the laboratories or in the industries for the filtration. Okay, and they together, like many diatoms together, they form the diatomaceous earth. Okay, next. Now we are coming to another kingdom, which is fungi. Okay, fungi is a very well-known kingdom that is neither a plant nor an animal. That is why it has a different kingdom. Fungi, they are eukaryotic, right? They are heterotrophic. That means they cannot do the photosynthesis. They take on the performed food. Like they cannot do photosynthesis, so they cannot make their own food, right? So they take the food which is already made from somebody else. Just for example, we humans, we are heterotrophic. We cannot make our own food. We take the food from either the plants or the animals. We cook them, but that is not something we are producing, right? So fungi are also like that. Their body is made up of thread-like structure called as hyphae forming a mycelium. You can just see in the picture. ये जो thread-like structures होते हैं, filamentous structure, they are together. They make this hyphae, which is together known as the mycelium. They have the cell wall which is formed by the chitin. जैसे हमको पता है ना कि plant cell wall that is formed by a material which is known as cellulose. But in case of fungi, they also have a cell wall which is made up of chitin. ठीक है? Most fungi are saprophytic. That means they feed on the dead matter. I told you कि decaying matter पे they do the feeding. Some are parasitic. कुछ फंजाई तो हमारे बॉडी में डिसीज भी कॉज करते हैं, राइट? जैसे कि रिंगवर्म नहीं, क्या बोलते हैं उसको, टीनिया पेडिस. ठीक है, दैट इज काइंड ऑफ ऐसे फूट पे होता है हमारे. दैट इज बिकॉज ऑफ द फंजाई. They reproduce by spores. कि they form the spores. Now the spores get dispersed in the air or water, just maybe ho. And if the spores come in your body, so the fungi will start growing in your body and you'll get the disease. If that is parasitic. Examples जैसे rhizopus, mushrooms, yeast, they are the examples of fungi. There are many type of fungi. For example, saprophytic. Saprophytic, that means they will feed on the dead matter or they will feed on the decaying matter. They will do the decomposition and through that they will take the minerals from those. ठीक है? So those examples, mucor, rhizopus. Then we have the parasitic. Parasitic means they will cause a disease. Yeah, fungi can cause a disease in humans, in other animals, even in the plants also. ठीक है? So for example, Puccinia, that cause a disease in the wheat plant. ठीक है? They make this wheat rust, कि ऐसा rust होता है, discoloration होता है leaves का. ठीक है? You can see some spots there. That is a disease in the plants. Here. Symbiotic form lichens with algae, mycorrhiza with roots. Symbiotic fungi भी होता है. Symbiotic मतलब there must be a mutual relationship with another partner. जैसे if we talk about the lichens, that is the mixture of algae and fungi. There they work together. The algae, like the fungi, they will absorb the nutrients and they will give that to the algae, and that algae will make the food in return, and that food will also be taken by the fungi. So it is a symbiotic relationship. Same for the mycorrhiza also. In the mycorrhiza thing, in the plant roots, okay, there we have the fungi. ठीक है? Those fungi, they increase the mineral absorption in the plants. They also increase the fertility of the soil, and in return they get the food from the plant. ठीक है? So they together they are working for something better. That is a symbiotic relationship. Okay? Then unicellular yeast, that is very much used in the fermentation, baking. ये जो आप दुकान में जाके तंदूरी रोटी मंगाते हो, ठीक है? That is puffed, that is swelled up. So there the yeast is used for the swelling up. Yeast actually वहाँ पर enal एनारोबिक रेस्पिरेशन करता है, जिसकी वजह से कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड प्रोड्यूस होता है, एंड दोज गैसेस, राइट, विच इज अ वेरी वेल नोन एंटीबायोटिक. इनफैक्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 की अगर बात करो, so this antibiotic was highly used at that time. ठीक है. So now this antibiotic, which is the penicillin, that is also got from a fungi which is known as the Penicillium notatum. ठीक है. It also causes the plant diseases जैसे wheat rust, fruit rots. ठीक है. Some are edible because हम mushrooms खाते हैं, right? So mushrooms, truffles, they are edibles also, and some have the symbiotic association जैसे कि मैंने बोला the lichen, the mycorrhiza, and mycorrhiza are not only a symbiotic relationship, that also helps in the soil fertility, for the plant growth. So it is something for the betterment also. Next. After the simpler kingdoms come to the great empires जैसे plants and animals में अगर हमने उनको बोला, so together they form the foundation of most ecosystems. Without the plants and the animals, without the plants, animals cannot survive. Why? Because plants are the primary producers in the nature. Because animals, we cannot produce our own food. We take the performed food. Like if we take the plants as the food, so plant is providing us the energy, or they are being used as a food material, right? So in the total food chain, I think you all are aware of the food chain, that it starts from the plants. They make the food by using the photosynthesis, and then other animals, they eat the plants, then we eat other animals as well as the plants also, right? Next. So now we are coming into a greater kingdom, which is the planting. ठीक है. So plants are multicellular, right, and they are eukaryotes also. Plant cells always have a cell wall, and this cell wall is made up of cellulose. ठीक है. Next. Plants are autotrophic in nutrition. That means they can do the photosynthesis. They can make their own food. ठीक है, by using the sunlight and all. They prepare food using the sunlight. Photosynthesis is their main process. That is why they are autotrophic. ठीक है. Next. So the photosynthetic ability, plants contain the plastids in their cell, and the plastids carry the green pigment which is known as the chlorophyll. What happens when chlorophyll absorbs the light? ठीक है. And they, after absorbing the light, they only reflect the green one. ठीक है. That is why it is the green pigment. So chlorophyll captures the energy from the sunlight. This energy is used in photosynthesis, and by using this energy, they make the food with the help of water, with the help of minerals, with the help of carbon dioxide, and this क्या बोलते हैं इसको, sunlight, and together they make the food, which is the glucose in case of plants. ठीक है. And so photosynthesis produces the glucose as the food, and oxygen is released during this photosynthesis, and we take up the oxygen for our own respiration, right? Next. Now there are different kind of plants also. So normally we know plants are autotrophic, that they do the photosynthesis by using the sunlight and they make their own food. But there are heterotrophic plants also who cannot make their own food. They are like us, कि they take the performed food. ठीक है. Some plants are partly heterotrophic, that they cannot fully depend on the photosynthesis. So insectivorous plants, they trap the like insects for the nutrients. क्या होता है? This plants, you can see the plant in the hole. When any kind of insect will come by mistake, they will engulf it, or they will trap it, and they will take the insect as a food, and from there they will get the nutrients. ठीक है. Parasitic plants depend on the host plants. कि there are some plants which feed on the other plant. ठीक है. They get nutrients from outside source because they are not able to do the photosynthesis, right? Such plants are rare exceptions. कि plants are like 98% of the plants are photosynthetic. They can make their own food, but there are some rare exceptions like the heterotrophic plants who depend on the other insects bolo or plants bolo for their food, because by themselves they cannot do the photosynthesis. ठीक है. So example of this kind of special plants. You can see in this animation, okay, there is this insect and now this plant has trapped it for the food, right? Next, so the pitcher plant traps and digests the insects. They trap it and then they digest, and from there only they take the nutrients. That is about the pitcher plant. Then if we talk about the Venus flytrap, that captures the insect as their food. Then both examples are insectivorous plants. Okay? Then if we talk about those plants who feed on other plants, then Cuscutter, they grows on other host plants, okay, and they take the nutrition from the host, and it is the example of a parasite. Okay? Next, now if we talk about the plant cell structure, see, is cell structure mein you can see one thing, they have this very rigid cell wall. Okay? They have this very rigid cell wall which is made up of the cellulose, and this is very much important to maintain the turgor pressure inside the cell. Also, you can see this big portion, this is the vacuole, and this vacuole take a large like this vacuole, this takes a large portion in the plant cell that is used for mostly the storage and pressuring the inside, maintaining the inside pressure also. And as the vacuole is this much large, so they take the most spaces inside the plant cell. That is why the nucleus below, the cytoplasm below, they are like shifted towards the corners. Okay? So plants, they have a cell wall which is made up of cellulose, and each plant has a nucleus, eukaryotes, na? And membrane-bound organelles like vacuoles, mitochondria, plastids, etc. And they reserve the food material as starch and the lipids. The reserve food material is starch and the lipids, because we know that in case of animals, the stored food is known as the glycogen, but in case of the plant, the stored food is known as starch. Now we are talking about the subgroups of the plants. So the plant kingdom, that is divided into two groups. So the first group is algae, we know, and the second group is known as the bryophytes, and there is another group which is the pteridophytes. Okay, now we'll be discussing about them in the detail. Gymnosperms are also belong to this kingdom. Angiosperms are the flowering plant. तो अभी आपको थोड़ा question आया होगा, तो because I'll not be answering right now because हम अभी detail में पढ़ने वाले हैं. So उसके पहले एनिमलिया किंगडम का एक छोटा सा पोर्शन कवर करते हैं, उसके बाद we'll be talking about the gymnosperms, angiosperm, pteridophytes, all those things. So if we talk about the animalia, then we know they are the multicellular organisms. You, me, or we all are the part of this animalia kingdom. Okay? They are also eukaryotes, but animal cells, they do not have the cell wall. We only have the cell membrane. We do not have the cell wall. Plastids are also absent in animals because we don't do the photosynthesis, right? So plastid is needed for the photosynthesis because there we have the pigment which is the chloroplast, but the chlorophyll, which is present in a type of plastids which is known as the chloroplast. So we don't do photosynthesis, so we don't need plastid, right? Animals depend on the plants for food. That is why we are the heterotrophic, and they are completely heterotrophic in nutrition because we don't do photosynthesis. We cannot produce our own food. We depend on other animals or plants for our food. That is why we are heterotrophic, right? Next, nutrition in animals. So members of the animal kingdom, they include the animals that occupy the land and water. It is not only that animals are terrestrial. Right, animalia is not only about humans, about dogs, cats, मतलब कुछ भी बोलो आप, dolphins, this, that, polar bears से लेके सब कुछ, everybody comes under the animalia. So it can be the terrestrial organism, it can be the aquatic organisms, right? So they do not possess chloroplast and primarily exhibit a heterotrophic mode of nutrition, meaning they obtain the nutrients by consuming other organisms, because we are not phototrophic. We cannot make our own food. We are heterotrophic and strictly heterotrophic, that we depend on the plants or other animals for our food, right? Their mode of nutrition is holozoic ingestion of the food, that we take the food, we have the digestion system, we digest and then we excrete out, right? They digest their food in an internal cavity and store the food reserve as glycogen, because I have just told you that in case of plants, they also make the food which is the glucose, and that glucose is stored in their body in the form of starch. But in our body, the storage food material is known as glycogen. ठीक है, mostly हमारे liver पे stored होता है वो. ठीक है, next. Growth and body systems, if we talk about, in case of animalia, we follow a definite growth pattern and grow into adults that have a definite shape and size. ये मैं क्या ही समझाऊँ, ये तो आपको पता है कि when you were a child, मतलब we always have a particular shape. ठीक है, so now from that shape we become the adult, but we always have a particular shape and function. Higher forms show elaborate sensory and neuromotor mechanisms. कि जितना higher animal group में आप जाओगे, for example the humans, we have much more senses. कि अगर आप dog, मतलब एक cat की बात करो और एक human की बात करो, humans are much more developed, right? Why? How are we developed? Because we have much much more senses in the terms of emotions and everything. We can sense things, we can understand things, and we can elaborate those things, right? So that is about us. हाँ पलक, please ask. Hello. हाँ पूछिए, आपको क्या question है? Okay. So most of them are capable of locomotion. Most of the people animals which is under the animalia, we can do the movement, we can do the locomotion, not only particularly movement, that we can change our positions, right? चल सकते, घूम सकते, फिर सकते, ऐसा type का. Sexual reproduction is by copulation of male and female, followed by the embryological development. You can just see that in case of humans also, that here the male and the female, they are involved and they have the sexual interaction with each other. Through that a new offspring is produced, and that offspring is also produced through some embryological stages. कि पहले it is a zygote, from there it goes through some cell division, and then the blastocyst that gets implanted, and they मतलब उसके वजह से उसका एक particular development phase होता है, and then it becomes a baby, it bonds, and then it becomes an adult through some stages, right? So that's all. मैम मुझे नीट का भी सिलेबस पढ़ा मीन्स थोड़ी नॉलेज हो जाएगी. हाँ नीट का भी बट 9 का सिलेबस बहुत डाइवर्स है, सो मुझसे नहीं हो पा रहा है. ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं. देखो पहले आप 9 का पढ़ लो, ठीक है. 9th का बेसिस अगर आप क्लियर कर लोगे, यही सेम चीजें यू विल बी फाइंडिंग इन द 11th 12th पोर्शन. ठीक है, 9th का जो पोर्शन पढ़ोगे वो आपको 11th में मेजरली मिलेगा. 10th का जो पोर्शन पढ़ोगे वो आपको 12th में मेजरली मिलेगा. सो आई वुड सजेस्ट कि अभी आप 9th का जो पढ़ रहे हो, जितना पढ़ाया जा रहा है, जितना आपको मिल रहा है, प्लीज यूटिलाइज इट ऑल, एंड आफ्टर दैट विद टाइम पहले आप बोर्ड्स दे दो 10th का. मैम ये चैप्टर कट है ना? कट है ना मतलब कट है ना मतलब वो मुझे समझ में नहीं आया. कैन यू प्लीज रिपीट? मतलब आई वुड रादर सजेस्ट यू कि यहाँ पर डाइवर्सिटी बताइए. हाँ तो डाइवर्सिटी का ही तो चैप्टर है ये. यहाँ पर वॉट एवर यू आर गेटिंग टॉट, यू आर बीइंग टॉट, इट इज ऑलरेडी इन डिटेल अ बिट. ठीक है, सो एनसीईआरटी में नहीं है, एनसीईआरटी में नहीं है डाइवर्सिटी. हाँ तो डाइवर्सिटी तो वी विल बी टॉकिंग, लाइक मेनी पोर्शन इज रेस्ट इन दिस चैप्टर. वी आर जस्ट पहले के पोर्शन में है अभी हम. ठीक है, तो इफ यू जस्ट गो थ्रू द ऑल द लेसन्स ऑफ दिस चैप्टर, देन यू कैन जस्ट अंडरस्टैंड अबाउट इट. मीन्स ये चैप्टर एनसीईआरटी में नहीं. भाई you have to study this, you have to learn this, क्योंकि अगर आप नीट पर्सपेक्टिव से भी सोचो तो this is important. ठीक है, so you just go through this lessons, you will learn through it. पहले आप 10th का बोर्ड्स दे दो, because all those things which you are learning from here, that will be in the 11th 12th थोड़ा elaborated way में. ठीक है, so पढ़ लो. ठीक है, and if you have any doubt or questions about it, you can ask. Next, diversity in animalia. If we talk about, the animal kingdom is highly diverse. मतलब you also know कि कितना ज़्यादा diverse है animal group. एक dog, एक cat, एक मतलब कोई भी reptile बोलो, कोई भी amphibian बोलो, कोई भी aves बोलो, polar bear से लेके सब कुछ, everybody comes under the animalia. So it's a highly diverse group. It includes the simple invertebrates like the sponges and also includes the highly modified animals or highly evolved animals. ठीक है? It includes the worms and insects. Complex vertebrates are also part of it. If we talk about all the like mammals, birds, जैसा कि मैंने बोला, reptiles, तो मतलब बहुत ही ज़्यादा diverse है. ठीक है? Thank you so much, Palak. अच्छा. So now, जैसा कि मैंने बोला था कि बीच में एक animal kingdom का portion आया, but we'll be talking in detail about the plant kingdom. ठीक है? So the plant kingdom, we can like divide it into two portions. One is the cryptogamy, ठीक है? Another is the phanerogamy. So now what is cryptogamy? Cryptogamy are the primitive plants and they lack the flowers or the fruits, ठीक है? And here they and they also lack the seeds and are characterized by the hidden reproductive organs, that they have the reproductive organs which are hidden and they don't have the flowers, they don't have the fruits. These are the major characteristics. They do reproduce through the spores, right? And that includes all the thallophytes, bryophytes and pteridophytes that we will discuss in detail. Now, if we talk about the phanerogamy, then they are the flower-bearing, seed-producing, fruit-producing plants, ठीक है? And they have the reproductive organs which are visible. Here you cannot see them, but here you can see them. And reproduce through the flowers. They don't reproduce through the spores because their reproductive organs are visible. So they are able to interact and they are able to produce the flowers, and from the flowers only they reproduce, right? So that includes the gymnosperms and angiosperms, and we will discuss about them in detail. So this is the chart. Cryptogamy के अंदर आता है thallophyta, bryophyta, pteridophyta, and under the phanerogamy there we have the gymnosperms, angiosperms. तो अभी इनके बारे में पढ़ते हैं. If we talk about the thallophyta, then they are very simple soft-bodied plants जैसे कि algae. You can see in this picture. ठीक है? They are mostly found in the water bodies क्योंकि algae है तो वो aquatic ही होगा. They don't have any roots, they don't have any stems, they don't have any leaves. They have the plant body which is known as the thallus. You can see यहाँ पर you cannot identify कि it is a leaf. Okay, you cannot identify that it is a stem or it is a root. It just have a body which has a plant features. Okay, so that is known as thallus. They are photosynthetic. That means they can use the sunlight and they can do photosynthesis. They are autotrophic. They can make their own food. Okay, so they perform 90% of the Earth's photosynthesis. Very informative. Then if we talk about the lichens, they come under the thallophyta, and we know that it's a symbiotic relationship between the algae and the fungi. The algae, like the fungi, they will bring the minerals to the algae and the algae will make the food from those minerals. Okay? And in return, the fungi will get that food. And examples, if we talk about Spirogyra, Eulothrix, then Laminaria, they are the examples of the thallophyta. If we talk about bryophyta, then bryophyta are known as the amphibians of the plant kingdom. Amphibians matlab, amphibians are those who can survive in the land as well as in the water. For example, frogs, if we talk about the animals. So in case of the plants, the bryophyta, they are the amphibians. So they are the first plants to live on land and still need water for the fertilization. कि जितना भी आप land में रहो भाई, fertilization के लिए water तो चाहिए होगा. They have the plant body, they have the leafy shoots, and they have the rhizoids which are root-like, and they have the male sex organ along with the female sex organ. So what is the male sex organ in case of them? That is the antheridium, which produces sperms because it is a male sex organ. Then in case of the female sex organ, which is known as the archegonium, which produces the egg, and now that egg and the sperm, they gets fertilized, and through that fertilization the embryo is formed, and which is inside the female sex organ, which is very normal, we can see in the animalia group, right? And they have the first embryophytes. Like ye thoda animal type ka feature ho gaya, right? Next, if we are talking about the pteridophyta, then in the pteridophyta, they are the plants with the true roots, जिनका सच में मतलब root जैसा significantly होना चाहिए. They have those roots, they have the stems, they have the leaves, like the particular plants we think of. They have the vascular tissue, xylem and phloem. Now, what is the function of xylem and phloem? Xylem is there for the transportation of minerals, that through the xylem tissues they take the minerals and they like उनको पहुंचाते हैं या फिर transport करते हैं to the leaves where they do make the food by using those minerals. And phloem is the tissue which is important for the transportation of food. The food which is made in the leaves, through the phloem tissue, the food is supplied to all the portions of the plant. The xylem, the direction is unidirectional. It only goes to the upwards, क्योंकि root से minerals लेके आप ऊपर दे रहे हो ना. But the flow of the phloem is towards the whole body, like multi-directional. नीचे, ऊपर, side, क्योंकि plant के हर body में आपको food पहुंचाना है, हर cell में food पहुंचाना है, right? Then this pteridophyta, they reproduce by the spores. They do not use the seeds or the fruits or the flowers for reproduction. They use the spores. Their life cycle shows the alternation of generations, that they have the dominant sporophyte and the independent gametophyte. They have the asexual reproduction also, which is also known as apogamy or apospory, and they have the sexual reproduction also, which is by the spore bearing sporangia on the leaves. ठीक है? The examples of the pteridophyta can include the ferns, the selaginella, then lycopodium. These are the examples of the pteridophyta. Then if we talk about the gymnosperm, so the gymnosperm means their seeds are naked. That mostly seeds are inside the food, right? But in case of gymnosperm, their seed is like exposed to the environment without any cotation or anything. Okay? So that means the naked seed, as they produce the seeds not in enclosed in fruits. You can see here, that is the seeds of them. This brown portion, that is the seeds. You can see that is not inside any fruit. As the environment में खुला है, right? So that is perennial woody trees or shrubs, mostly evergreen and adapted to both cold and dry climates. Well-developed roots, they have the well-developed roots, stems and leaves, and with the organized tissues and vascular structures, bundles जैसे xylem, phloem. I have already discussed the function of xylem and phloem. And in case of them, their stems, they are naturally upright, जैसा normal trees का होता है कि ऐसा upright rigid structure. ठीक है? They have the branched or unbranched structure, and they grow the through the secondary growth, because they have to form the wood also. And leaves often contain the resin ducts or latex tubes. Now this resin, it is secreted from these leaves or something, and they are used as the protection. Okay, it will protect the plant from the insects or disease causing organisms. And the latex, we know that is जब आप कोई फूल ऐसे suddenly तोड़ते हो या leaf तोड़ते white color का sap आपको दिखता है ना, that is the latex. Now the gymnosperms, they reproduce through the cones instead of the flowers. Cones matlab, you can see the cones here, right? The brown color is the female cone and this yellow color is the male cone, and they reproduce through this. Now the cones, that is unisexual and distinct, that they have the male cone, the female cone, right? In case of the male cone, if we talk about, it is microspores. ठीक है? The female cone is the megaspore or the ovules. Now fertilization that takes between the pollen grains are transferred to the female cone. Cone जैसा होता है कि male से female पे जाता है, and the seed remain naked, that is not inside the fruit. ठीक है? Because as the ovules are not enclosed any ovary, they don't have the ovary, so they are exposed to the environment. No fruits are formed. That is why the seeds are naked, right? Now gymnosperms, these are the examples of the gymnosperms. That is cycas. You can see the naked seeds, right? You can see this naked seeds, and this is ginkgo, then cedrus. They are the examples of the gymnosperms. Then if we talk about the angiosperm, then they are the most advanced plants. Okay? They are the dominant on earth. They have the flowers, the fruits, and inside the fruit they have the seed. Okay? Next, they are divided into two classes. One is dicotyledons and then is monocotyledons. Now what is that? That means they have two cotyledons. That means they have two embryonic leaf. Okay? And here in the monocotyledons, they have only the single embryonic leaf, right? Then, in the angiosperms, the male organ is the stamen, which is consisted of the filament and the anther, and that produce the pollen grains, right? Then if we talk about the female organ, then the female organ is the pistil or the carpel, right? And they have the ovary. That is why they have the fruits and the seeds are inside that, right? Then the pollination takes place. What happens in the pollination? That pollen is transferred to the stigma, they germinate and they form the pollen tubes, right? If we talk about the angiosperms, in case of angiosperm, we get to see the double fertilization. You can see in this picture also what happens, that one male gamete that forms a zygote, and now that zygote will go for the further stages, and the other male gamete that forms a triploid primary endosperm nucleus which nourish the embryo. This zygote will from the embryo, and from it that will go for the fruit formation, but the another, which is the PEN, that will nourish the embryo, that will help the embryo to grow, like they will provide such environment and everything so the embryo can grow well. Okay? After fertilization, the ovules, they develop into seeds, the ovaries, they develop into the fruit, and it is a commonly asked question ki which portion becomes the food and which portion becomes the seed. Next, now we are coming deeper into the animal kingdom. Here you can see the animals are included in the kingdom Animalia, which is a metazoa. That means they are the multicellular ones, right? They are the multicellular ones. They are multicellular, eukaryotic and heterotrophic organisms, and I have told you multiple times what is heterotrophic, that they cannot perform photosynthesis, they cannot make their own food, they rely on other organisms for their food, right? Animals are found in almost everywhere, every type of habitat, right? And जैसा कि मैंने बोला, एक polar bear से लेके शुरू होके एक cheetah से, एक human से, एक cat से, dog से, butterfly बोलो, एक पंछी बोलो, whatever, everything comes under the Animalia. Since animals are so diverse, it is important to classify them systematically so that it will be helpful for our study only. So similar to plants, the animal kingdom is also divided into groups, subgroups based on some characteristics. Now, we'll be discussing in detail also what are the characteristics based on those we are classifying. So the animal kingdom, that is of two types, one is invertebrate and other is vertebrate. Now what is invertebrate? Invertebrates में vertebral column नहीं होता है. What are those examples? Sponges, hydra, earthworm, cockroach. And in the vertebrates, they have the vertebral column, जैसे कि fish, frog, birds, humans. Now there is this very common question, what is notochord, ma'am? What is vertebral column? Vertebral column, that is a interlinked bony structure which protects the spinal cord, if I talk about the humans, right? And the notochord, that is a cartilaginous structure which gives the strength to the animals, and sometimes the notochord that is replaced by the vertebrates in case of their adulthood. Okay? Next. So the animal kingdom, जैसा कि हमने बोला, the animal kingdom, it is very diverse. So now we are classifying the animal kingdom in much smaller groups based on some characteristics. Now these are the characteristics based on whom or based on which we are classifying them. The level of organization, symmetry, metamerism, germ layers, notochord, coelom. So let's discuss. If we talk about the organization, देखो, There can be cellular organization, tissue level organization, organ level organization. Cellular level organization means what? That the cells, they are there and they are not forming the tissues. The cell, they independently do every function. Okay? If we talk about the tissue level organization, that here all the cells, they come together, like similar kind of cells, they come together, they form a particular tissue and that tissue works, like do a particular function. Okay? Then if we talk about the organ level organization, that different tissues, like many type of tissues are there in your body and the similar kind of tissues, they come together. ठीक है, and they form a particular organ and that particular organ is devoted for a particular function. जैसे कि हमारे body में, if we talk about the stomach, that is for digestion. If we have our brain, that is for the thinking, right? If we have the kidney, that is for the filtration. So that comes under the organ level organization. So here first we talk about the body of the animals are made up of cells and these cells are organized into different levels. पहले जैसा हम अगर cellular level की बात करें, so only the cells are there and they are not forming any kind of tissues. They do the functions. ठीक है? So that is found in the sponges. Sponges come under porifera. All these things will be discussing. So cells are loosely arranged and they work independently. There are no true tissues, like no cell, like ये जो tissue का concept है कि cells will come together and they will do a particular function and that will be called as a tissue. So here nothing like that take place. Okay? Then if we talk about the tissue level organization, they are found in the coelenterids, which are the hydra and the jellyfish. They are the similar kind of cells, they do the same function, they form the tissue, but here the tissues, they are not forming the organs, only till the tissue level organization we can see here. Okay? Then if we talk about the organ level organization, so that is found in the flatworms, just platyhelminthes, that here different tissues are grouped together to form organs which perform the specialized functions. ऐसा नहीं कि इनके body में हर चीज के लिए organ होगा और बस organ ही organ है, नहीं, but some tissues, they have made some particular organs which has a particular function. But organ system level of organization, that is found in the higher animals like the humans. Here what happens, like the annelids, arthropods, mollusks, echinoderms, chordates, here we can see this kind of organization, that organs are grouped together to form the organ system like the digestive, circulatory, reproductive system, that here multiple organs are involved together. हमने जो organ level organization देखा, यहाँ पर we know कि one organ is doing a particular function ऐसा, but organ system level organization, then multiple organs are also doing the similar kind of work. जैसे आप बोलो reproductive system में तो बहुत से organs है, जैसे testis है, ठीक है, मतलब हाँ, in the males I'm talking about, they have the testis, they have the penis and everything. If we talk about the female, they have the ovaries, they have the uterus. So multiple organs are coming together for the particular function. ठीक है? Next, if we talk about the levels of organization, जैसा कि हम अगर एकदम primitive level से सोचे, first the cellular, then it is evolved as the tissue level, it has further evolved as the organ level, and it has further evolved as the organ system level. Then if we talk about the symmetry, asymmetrical मतलब that मतलब सोचो a structure like ऐसा कुछ structure है, आप इसको बीच में से डिवाइड करो, ऐसे डिवाइड करो, ऐसे करो, ऐसे करो, from any plane you will not be able to divide that structure into the equal halves. That is not possible, right? मतलब जैसे आप थोड़ा ऐसा structure देख लो, अगर ऐसा कोई structure हुआ, if you cut it from the middle, still do we have the equal halves? No, we cannot. इधर ये ज़्यादा है, इधर ये ज़्यादा है, मतलब from any plane you will not be able to divide that body of the organism into the equal halves. So they come under the asymmetrical symmetry. Then if we talk about the radial symmetry जैसे, एक मिनट, radial symmetry you can see कि सोचो ऐसा है, so here in this case, if you, जैसे starfish में होता है, if you cut it from the middle, you can divide it into two equal halves, जैसे divisible into similar halves by the central plane, ठीक है? If we talk about the bilateral symmetry, which is seen in the humans also, like if you cut it from the middle, you have the equal parts, along with that you have the identical parts also, the left and the right, right? So it is divisible into the equal halves by a single plane and the identical halves also. Then if we talk about the germ layers, we know that there are three germ layers: the ectoderm, which is the outer one, okay? Then we have the mesoderm, which is the middle one. Then we have the endoderm, which is the inner one. So there are two types of animals. One is diploblastic, one is triploblastic. So what is diploblastic? In case of the diploblastic animals, they only have the two germ layers, which is the ectoderm and the endoderm. Okay? They don't have the mesoderm. They might have the scattered like thing of mesoderm, which is not even mesoderm, which is known as mesoglia, but that is not mesoderm. Here they have only the ectoderm and the endoderm. They don't have the mesoderm. Instead, they might have the mesoglia in between, which is a fluid-like thing. Not fluid-like, thoda jelly-like thing. So that is the example of the coelenterids like hydra, jellyfish. There we can see this structure. But if we talk about the triploblastic, triplo means three germ layers are present. That their body wall made up of three germ layers: ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. Flatworms and all other higher animals, there we can see this structure. Then coelom. Coelom is what? Coelom is a body cavity, as a body cavity, but the fluid filled thing like structure जो हमारे body के internal जो organs हैं उनको safe रखते हैं. So now the cavity, like the body cavity, how the structure of that? If we talk about the acoelomates, they don't have any body cavity. ठीक है? Example जैसे flatworms. If we talk about the pseudocoelomates, pseudo मतलब क्या? कि fake but है, कुछ तो है भाई, fake तो नहीं बोल रहे. So here what happens, the body cavity is present but it's not completely lined by the mesoderm. Body cavity is also made up of the ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm, right? So in the pseudocoelomate, they have the ectoderm, they have the endoderm, but that is typically not lined by mesoderm. ठीक है? That is why it is the pseudocoelomate. So here the example is just roundworms. But if we talk about the coelomates, that means they are the true coelomates. They have the ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm both, that their body cavity is lined by the perfect mesoderm. ठीक है? In case of pseudocoelomates ना क्या होता है? ये जो mesoderm है, ये scattered pouch के तरह रहता है. Perfect mesoderm से lined नहीं होता है. But in case of the coelomates, the body cavity that is completely lined by the mesoderms, which we can see in the annelids, arthropods, mollusks, echinoderms, chordates in their case. Right? Next. Notochord. So notochord is what? It is mesodermally derived. That is, it is derived from the structure mesoderm, and it is a rod-like structure present on the dorsal side. Dorsal side matlab back side of the body during the embryonic stage, and it provides a skeletal support. के support की तरह पीछे ऐसे काम कर रहा है. Animals that possess the notochord at any stage of their life cycle are known as the chordates. जैसे कि हमको embryonic level पे भी है, अभी भी है notochord, ठीक है? And animals that do not have a notochord are called as a non-chordates. जैसे कि sponges, worms, arthropods, they don't have the notochord, right? Next, we are talking about the porifera. These are the subdivisions of the animal kingdom, ठीक है? तो porifera, if we talk about, these are the sponges. The picture which you can see here, that is the picture of a sponge, ठीक है? And we are classifying this, जो animal kingdom के अंदर अभी आपको और basis दिखेंगे ना, division दिखेंगे, those are classified based on which characteristics we have just discussed. Notochord बोलो, coelom बोलो, symmetry बोलो, then body organization बोलो, ठीक है? So if we talk about the porifera, they are the primitive multicellular animals कि बहुत पहले के हैं ये, They are also known as the sponges. They are aquatic, predominantly marine, with some freshwater forms we also have. And they lack the true embryological germ layers, tissues and nerve cells. They don't have these things. Okay? But a very important thing in case of porifera, they are asymmetrical also, that you cannot divide their body into the equal halves from any plane, and they have the cellular level of body organization, that they don't have the true tissues or organ level to chhodi do. Okay? So if we talk about the porifera, then their body structure, they have the ostia. Inke body mein you can see some pores. Those pores are ostia, and they have the single opening in their body, and that is known as the osculum. What happens? Porifera, they have the canal system in their body. Canal system in their body, that they have the pores which are known as ostia. So water, like they cannot move that way, okay? And they don't have the true tissues or the digestive tract, ye wo nahi. Whatever food or water or oxygen, anything comes inside their body, those are through the pores, which are the ostia. Like the water come inside that through the ostia, and through the water only the nutrients and everything comes inside. So through the ostia, through the pores, the water comes inside, and that comes into a portion which is known as spongocele. Okay? Spongocele, and the spongocele further things come into another portion which is known as osculum, and from the osculum it is the opening. Through this osculum, whatever waste material bolo, jo bhi bolo, that comes out of the body. So it is like the canal system. They have the ostia through which things come inside. They have the spongocele. There is the, like everything comes there first. From there, whatever has to be excreted out or waste material bolo, kuch bhi bolo, things come out of this opening which is known as osculum. They have the internal skeleton of calcareous or siliceous spicules. Then they have the water enters through the, the water enters through the ostia, as I just said, aiding the food and oxygen circulation through the water only. Digestion is intracellular, that they have no alimentary canal, right? Reproduction can be asexual through budding or germule from formation, or sexual interaction, fertilization bhi ho sakta hai, but that should be internal, not external, right? External fertilization, jaise we can see that in the frogs. Next, another is the nidaria. You can see this is the picture of a nidaria. So, here the nidaria, they are known as the stinging cells, okay? Because they have these cells which is known as nidoblasts. They are the stinging cells, which is for the catching of the prey and everything. They have the tentacles which is used for feeding and for the defense. You can see the tentacles. They are exclusively aquatic and mostly marine only. Nidoblast cells were used for defense and the capturing prey, as I just said, those are only the stinging cells, right? They have the tentacles around the mouth. This is the mouth, matlab in the nidaria, this is the example, hydra is the example of the nidaria. Just if we say this is the hydra, here you can see the tentacles, okay, inke mouth ke side mein. And they are radially symmetrical, that means their body can be divided through the central plane to the equal halves, right? They are polymorphic, they have the polymorphic life cycle, which is a polyp and medusa, that they can change their sexual forms, either asexual or sexual, which is known as metagenesis. I'll discuss about it. So in case of nidaria, if we talk about their digestive system, they have the incomplete digestive system. So what is incomplete digestive system? That means they, like, what is the complete digestive system first? Think about the humans. We have the complete digestive system. That we have the mouth for the ingestion of the food, and we have the anus for the excretion, right? But in case of them, they have the incomplete digestive system. That means they only have the single opening, and that single opening is used for both the ingestion and egestion. ठीक है, वहां से ही फूड दे इनटेक एंड फ्रॉम वहां से ही आप वो दे एक्सक्रीट द वेस्ट मटेरियल, ठीक है. सो देयर इन निडारिया वी हैव दिस इनकम्प्लीट डाइजेस्टिव सिस्टम. Digestion occurs in the gastrovascular cavity. They don't have any separate anus. That is why they have the incomplete digestive system, right? Water expelled through the mouth. Next, if we talk about their reproductive system, then asexual reproduction by budding in the polyp form, sexual reproduction in the medusa form, internal or external fertilization. Now they have this feature in their reproductive system which is known as metagenesis. Now what is that? They have two forms. One is polyp, another is medusa. ठीक है. Now polyp, that is the asexual form, ठीक है, and medusa is the sexual form. So they can change their forms, which is known as metagenesis, that polyp can become medusa by the asexual reproduction, which is known as budding, because you can see it is asexual structure, and medusa can become polyp through the sexual reproduction by the help of gametes. We know gametes are involved in the sexual reproduction, ठीक है, and they can become polyp. So ये जो इनका generation का alteration है, that is known as metagenesis. And in case of एक example अगर मैं दे दूँ, like obelia, ठीक है, that is a nidaria. There we can see these changes or the alteration of the generation, which is known as the metagenesis, ठीक है. So एक minute. हाँ, so that's all for your today's session, ठीक है. Today we have covered till the nidaria. एक minute. Today we have covered till the nidaria and their reproductive system also. And from the next class, we'll be talking about the rest of the divisions of the animal kingdom, right? The Ctenophora, Platyhelminthes, Aschelminthes, Annelids, Arthropoda, Mollusca, मतलब जो भी है, or the things that we'll be discussing in the later classes. And I hope that you all have understood the class well. And we'll be discussing about the rest of the portions in the later classes. So thank you so much for joining to this session. And if you have any doubt, you can ask in the comment section. In the next class, I will clear out those doubts. So for today, thank you so much for joining to this class and paying this much attention. So see you in the next class. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy, do study and have a lot of fun. ठीक है? चलो, bye bye.